Welcome to another exciting episode of Rogue Finances and Life, where we are life and financially sound. So for today's episode, my guest, Mr. Brian DeMint, and I will be talking about cryptocurrency and specifically Bitcoin. So for those of you that might be thinking about investing in Bitcoin or haven't done it because don't understand it, I really hope that this episode will be very informative for you guys, that you guys will be able to understand more about Bitcoin and be able to know where to go and how to research Bitcoin to be able to invest in it. So now, Mr. Brian DeMint, he is the CEO of Salt and Light, a company that invests in and operates small businesses. He is former chief marketing officer of the Ethereum blockchain and the debut author of Bitcoin Evangelism, a guide for going from 0 to 100 on a Bitcoin and blockchain knowledge. So without any further ado, here's Mr. Brian DeMint.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for the warm introduction. So I released my book, Bitcoin Evangelism, back in June. I'm very blessed to be able to say that it's an Amazon bestseller right now. It's been as high. The ranking fluctuates every hour, but it's been as high as number 7 in the world on economic inflation. So it's been really, really cool, and it's a huge honor and a privilege to be part of the national conversation around inflation. I mean, inflation is such a hot topic right now. And cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, they kind of go in and out of being a hot topic. Like right now, people aren't very excited by them, but like 6 months ago they were. But inflation is something that's affecting everybody. So I love to talk about financial education. I love what you do with your show. And I think it's important. I think that people that understand the financial system have an unfair advantage versus the people that don't understand the financial system. And anybody can have that advantage. It's just a matter of doing the homework. And it doesn't take that much study. You can have an advantage over everybody else by just a little bit of knowledge. And so I think that's kind of the optimistic message here, is that we're at a time period in human history where there's giant shifts happening. And at these moments, these inflection points in human history, there's chances for transformational wealth. So there's chances for people to move up and down the socioeconomic ladder. So maybe you started life at the bottom, but by just a little bit of brain power and a little bit of diligence and discipline, we can jump 2, 3, 4 rungs up the ladder by understanding the financial system and how, like if we're playing chess, the best thing I can do is think about my opponent's moves a few moves ahead, right? And so that's the exact same thing we're doing in terms of finance. It's just thinking a few moves ahead and playing the game to the best of our ability. And it's very tangible. I tell people all the time, you could probably already tell by the way I'm talking, I'm not a super sophisticated guy. I'm not that bright. I can study, I can work hard, and I can learn. When in Bitcoin evangelism and what I do on my book tour is I'm basically one caveman trying to explain a complicated subject like Bitcoin to another caveman. That's all we're trying to do. But as cavemen, we can still rise up. We can still improve our lives for ourselves and our family. You don't have to be a PhD. You don't have to be a rocket scientist in order to grasp this stuff. It can seem complicated, but it's because I think most of the time this stuff sounds complicated because nobody took the time to break it down for us. So I think just by the very act that people are tuning into your podcast, it shows that they have that itch. It shows that they have that desire. And so they're already at an advantage just because they're taking that step. And so taking these extra steps to go through things like resources, like the book that I wrote, it just primes them even more.
Exactly. Well, thank you for being available and willing to help me educate and inform people on current cryptocurrency and specifically Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin right now is a commodity, right?
Yeah, so it's listed by the Commodities Futures Trading Commission as a commodity. The Securities and Exchange Commission have also classified Bitcoin as a commodity, but just understand that there's about 20,000 cryptocurrencies out in the world. Bitcoin is the only one that is classified as a commodity. The other ones don't have any kind of regulatory clarity around them. And so there's a Bitcoin's the only currency. It's the only one that's trying to function. Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
Did I cut out there?
Yeah, but I paused it.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Can you pause it for, are you? So yeah, the Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that's listed as a commodity. Everything else, it could be listed as a commodity someday, but the government, the regulators just haven't listed it that way. There's good reason why they probably won't list most cryptocurrencies as a commodity. Bitcoin fits the qualities of something like gold, where most other cryptocurrencies, if not all other cryptocurrencies, they serve a different function. So it's not that they're completely worthless. I do hold some other cryptocurrencies, but they're just different. And we can get more into that. But Bitcoin is the one that is listed as a commodity.
Gotcha. That's great. So now, because right now, I'm working on getting my licenses for investments like mutual funds. So now, would you say that when it comes to Bitcoin, investing in Bitcoin and investing in investments, like when the market, when it drops, when the price drops, so people should hold and wait for it to rise up, or should people just give it, sell it?
No, I'm a big fan of whatever it is that you invest in to have long-term conviction. I've seen so many people lose money, and it doesn't matter if they're investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies. If they have long-term conviction, most things, especially in the American economy, especially things that have fundamentals, they're going to increase in value over time. If you bought into the US stock market, say like an index fund a year ago, you bought at a higher price than it is today. Should you have sold? Well, I mean, maybe back then you should have sold, but should you sell today? No, you shouldn't sell today because you're locking in a loss. Is the US economy collapsing and never coming back? No. Eventually, the US economy is going to go back to higher than it was before. That's why it's important to not invest beyond our means. If you have to get access to those investment funds and you have to get them back so you can pay a bill, then you're putting yourself in a bad situation because now you have to sell at a loss in order to pay your utility bill or your car payment or whatever it is. So it's important to delegate funds that you can store long term in investments. And so that's my number one goal for any type of investment is just to find conviction in why you're investing in it. Don't invest off of a hot tip. If a friend text messages you and says that this cryptocurrency or this stock, it's going to go to the moon, and so you got to get in right now, just wait, study it. That shouldn't be your cue to buy that thing. That should be your cue maybe to study that thing and take a little bit of time. I even say in my book, I have a whole chapter on cryptocurrency investing principles. And one of the principles that I have is that I don't ever buy a cryptocurrency within 2 weeks of hearing about it. I don't buy any investment within 2 weeks of hearing about it. It should probably be longer than that. We should probably know about something for longer than 2 weeks before we invest in it. But I find that at least 2 weeks is a long enough time so that if you had that FOMO, that fear of missing out, you can maybe get past that a little bit. So sometimes the hype can kind of be lost after about 2 weeks. And if you're still excited about something, then you've done your homework, then maybe go after it. But yeah, I buy things. I bought my first Bitcoins back in 2014. When I was buying Bitcoin, they were, at first they were $250 a piece. I haven't sold any of those Bitcoin. My conviction is that I'm going to hold them for the long term. And think about it this way. When Bitcoin went from $250 to $500, should I have sold? No. When it went to $1,000, should I have sold? Well, I made 400% on my investment. Should I have sold? Well, the right answer is no. When Bitcoin went to $10,000 a coin, I made thousands of percent gain on my investment. Should I have sold? Well, if I want more dollars, then yes. But if I think that Bitcoin is sound money and it's a better form of money, then I'm just going to hold on to it until I can buy more and more stuff with Bitcoin. So back when I first bought a Bitcoin, one of my Bitcoins could buy me a shopping cart full of groceries. Now my Bitcoin can buy me a car. I'm going to hold on to my Bitcoin until it can buy me a house. That's kind of the goal here. And so it's not that I'm speculating that I think Bitcoin is going to go up in price. It's just that there's only 21 million Bitcoin in the entire world. And we denominate Bitcoin in dollars, but dollars are infinite. We keep printing more dollars every day. So the price of Bitcoin, if it's scarce and dollars are infinite, the price of Bitcoin has to go up over time. That's just how scarcity works.
Exactly. I agree with that. Now, and as I have learned in finances, a lot of people make decisions when they have it, with emotions, but we believe not to make decisions when you're on an emotion, because you can make the wrong decision. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the best, this is going to sound crazy, but I think one of the best things that I ever did in life that prepared me to be an investor was when I was in college. I had a regular job, but I made most of my money by playing no limit poker. And so I don't suggest making a living from poker. But what I do think was good about it, because poker, even if you're good, you're going to have times when you get unlucky. You're going to have times when you made the right move on the turn, but on the river, you get messed up on the river, and somebody that doesn't know what they're doing takes all of your money. And so the emotionality of playing poker, you have highs, you have lows, you have devastating moments where somebody takes all of your money. That the ability to balance those emotions is a really useful tool in my investing now. My portfolio, in my cryptocurrency portfolio, from this point last year to now is down about $1 million in value. I actually don't care that much. I'm enthusiastic that the market's down, because I look at the Bitcoin that I'm buying and the Ethereum that I'm buying. I look at those things, and even the stocks and the index funds in the stock market. I look at those things as though it's Black Friday and everything's on sale. Somebody could look at their portfolio and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm down $1 million. This is devastating." I'm looking at it as, I know these things are going back up. Thank God I get another chance to buy some more of them at low prices. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's counterintuitive. Our brain's telling us you need to be depressed right now because you're worth less money. You're worth less money than you were this time last year. But an investor thinks about everything the opposite way. There's a famous investing quote. It says that the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. You buy when there's crisis. You buy when people are panicking. But the average person, they buy when things are at all-time highs. The average person buys Bitcoin when it's $70,000. It's a little bit harder for people to buy Bitcoin when it's $20,000 because people are negative about it. It's maybe hard to buy stocks right now because stocks are down and people are negative about the stock market. But again, is the American economy going away? No, it might have a recession. You could even have a depression. Say things get really bad and you have a depression. Where are we going to be 10 years from now? It's not going to be probably worse than it is right now. We have a huge industry behind our economy. And then bringing it back to Bitcoin, the fundamentals behind Bitcoin are timeless. And so if you buy those things, if you have conviction in them, you play the emotionality to your advantage. If I feel bummed out because my portfolio is down today, that's giving me an indicator that maybe it's a time to buy some more.
Gotcha. That sounds good. Yeah, definitely. So now, what is a blockchain?
That's a great question. And I think that's where most people get held up, because there's a complicated answer for that. Like, I could get into the computer science stuff of what a blockchain is, but that's not what your audience is interested in. What is a blockchain and why does it matter? A blockchain is just a computer algorithm that does exactly what you tell it to do with no middleman. So if I want to send Jesus $10 worth of Bitcoin, I can send you $10, and this algorithm that doesn't do anything except for send money from A to B, it does exactly what I tell it to do. It doesn't care if I'm white, black, Hispanic, from Jerusalem. It doesn't care if you're from Iran or whatever. It doesn't care what religion you are. It has no idea other than person A wants to send value to person B. That's what a blockchain is. And it's a computer algorithm that does that. What most people don't understand is that our current financial system has all sorts of middlemen. And so if I were to send you a payment through, say, like Venmo or a credit card payment, there would be at least 5 parties involved. So there would be me, my bank, who I have to ask permission from my bank to send money. Most people don't realize that. They're asking permission from their bank to send money. Then Venmo or Visa is in the middle. Then you have, your receiving bank. So you have Bank of America. And then finally on the other end, you get that money. There's 5 parties involved in that transaction. But when we use a blockchain, we're getting to send it digitally, but it's 2 parties involved, you and me. The thing in the middle is just computer code that doesn't do anything except for what it's supposed to do. And so that's a revolutionary concept. We've never had that in human history. In the history of computer science, we've never had the ability to send something digitally without somebody in the middle. When we do things through the internet, it feels like we're just doing it. Like if I send you a direct message, it feels like Brian's just sending Jesus a direct message. But there's a company in the middle that can block that message if they want. They could change. If they don't like what I'm saying, they could stop that. But a blockchain allows that to process with no middleman.
Oh, that's great. So now I have heard people talking about Ethereum. Mm-hmm. Now, what is the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Another wonderful question, man. You got it dialed in. So Ethereum is the number 2 biggest cryptocurrency in the world next to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has the biggest market share. It has about 40% of all the value of all cryptocurrencies. I think Ethereum has something like 20% of all the value of other cryptocurrencies. So between the 2 of these, they account for like 60% of the market, these 2 cryptocurrencies. The main difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, the way I like to describe it is, imagine your iPhone. On somebody's iPhone, they have Apple Pay, and then they have the App Store. Apple Pay is a completely different feature than the App Store. If I go to the store and I want to buy something, I use Apple Pay because that's money. When I want to use an application, I go to the App Store. Bitcoin is like Apple Pay. You use it, it's money. You're going to use it in commerce. Ethereum is like the App Store. On the Ethereum blockchain, you can develop things that are called decentralized applications. And so you use blockchain technology to take things that are existing applications and you decentralize them. So where I described Bitcoin decentralizes money, I can send money from you to me with no intermediary. This is where some of the exciting stuff comes in. With Ethereum, think about what companies are a middleman and how they can be disrupted with blockchain technology. So one of the things I write about in my book is an example, and there's actually blockchain projects trying to solve this problem. Imagine Uber for a second. What does Uber do? Great company. They provide a great service, but there's people that have a car and there's people that need a ride, and Uber sits in the middle and they take a 25% commission because they pair those 2 people together. Well, what if a blockchain can sit in the middle between drivers and riders? Now the driver gets to determine what the fee is. Now there's no more 25% commission in the middle. The driver can say, oh, I'm going to drop my prices by 10%. I'm still going to make 15% more than I used to make. Mm-hmm. The customer is getting a 10% price reduction. So what happens when somebody gets the same service, but they get it at a discounted price? All of a sudden, I'm going to use Uber a little bit more. So that driver is getting a bigger profit margin and more business because it's cheaper for his customers, all because there's no middleman. There's just a blockchain that pairs the 2 people. Why does Uber need to sit in the middle of drivers and riders? They have a matching service, but computer technology, computer code can do that same function. And so you could use a blockchain. So decentralized Uber would be in the Ethereum app store, essentially, where Bitcoin is like digital gold. I'm going to use it for money, that type of thing. So that's essentially the difference, is the app store versus Apple Pay kind of illustration.
Got you. Okay. So now for those people that still don't know, or they thinking about how to invest in crypto, what are some of the cryptocurrency that they should invest, and which one they should kind of like stay away from?
I would say the first thing you do is, if you're going to buy some, just to keep it simple, just start with Bitcoin. Most people are aware, like I mentioned earlier, my book is doing well in the inflation category on Amazon. The reason why a Bitcoin book is doing so well on inflation is because people are recognizing that our fiat currency system, and fiat currency, for those of your listeners that don't know what that is, it's what US dollars are. There's nothing backing US dollars. most people think that we have a gold-backed currency. We haven't had a gold-backed currency since 1971. There's no country in the world that has a gold-backed currency anymore. All of our currencies are backed by fiat, which means by decree. It just means the government says it has value, so it has value. But that government, they don't have to tell you how many dollars are in existence. So nobody knows exactly how many dollars are out there. They can create more at any time. The Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, during COVID, when people were worried, like, hey, are you going to be able to keep the economy going? And he was actually bragging about it at the time. He said, oh, don't worry. We don't even have to print money anymore. We can add $1 trillion to the economy just by a few strokes of a keyboard. They can literally type $1 trillion in just by hitting one and a few zeros, and they can add that money into the circulation. Well, think about that. If you have, say you have a lot more than $100 to your name, but let's say you have $100 to your name. If you have $100 and then the Federal Reserve goes out and prints another $1 trillion, you still have $100, but there's now $1 trillion more in circulation. You have a lot less relative percentage of all the money in existence than you used to have. You used to have, say you used to have 0.00004% of all the dollars in circulation. Well, now you got 0.00001% of all the dollars in circulation because they just watered down your share of all the dollars that you have. So people are starting to recognize that, and people see that by the prices at the gas pump. It's not even a political issue. This has happened throughout history with both conservative parties in power and progressive parties in power. Politicians like to do this, whether they're progressive or conservative or whatever. They like to spend money because it usually is good for their campaigns and things like that. It's good for their political power. And so when governments spend money, it waters down the currency that we hold. Bitcoin's the exact opposite. There's the creation of Bitcoin is programmed into it. Like I said, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence. And so you can buy part of that 21 million Bitcoin right now. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. A Bitcoin's $20,000. Most people don't want to drop $20,000 on a Bitcoin right now, but you can buy really small pieces of Bitcoin. They're called Satoshis. So just like how the US dollar has a 0.01, a penny, the Bitcoin goes down to 8 decimal places, 0.000, all these zeros, and then a 1. So you can buy, for right now, you can buy 10,000 little pieces of Bitcoin for $2. You can stack pieces of Bitcoin for small amounts of money right now, and those things are going to keep going up in value. And there's only so much of that. Like I said, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. Just for a fun fact, there's 45 million millionaires in the world. Not every millionaire, if all the millionaires tomorrow wanted a Bitcoin, not all of them could have it. Only about half of all the millionaires, let alone the billionaires, and let alone all the people that have almost $1 million. There's just not enough Bitcoin for everybody to have some. Imagine if you could go back to 1992 and you could buy pieces of the internet protocol because you knew it was how big it was going to be. You would be a gajillionaire by now because you bought a few pieces of the internet protocol because everybody uses it. Bitcoin's the same thing. Bitcoin's the internet of value. The internet, www, was the internet of information. Bitcoin is now the internet of value, the internet of sending funds. You can buy part of that protocol right now for less than a penny. You can buy really small pieces of it. So that's why when I say start with Bitcoin, it's the only one that's like sound money. Now, if you study the other ones, and if that illustration I shared earlier about Ethereum is kind of compelling, like, wow, I could see decentralized applications having their place someday. I think that that's going to be the case. Then maybe Ethereum is something that you allocate a little bit of money to. But I would be careful venturing too far out in other cryptocurrencies because there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that are scams. There's a lot of cryptocurrencies that, while they mean well, they're actually probably not good projects. So in my book, like I said earlier, I lay out a whole chapter about what to look out for when you're investing in it. And I kind of share what my portfolio looks like to some degree, as far as like what my line of thinking is of why I invest in these things. But I would say if you're starting somewhere, just buy. You don't have to go out and buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. Go out and buy $10 worth of Bitcoin today. Put some skin in the game, and now you'll start to pay attention to it. And it's one of those things. And if your listeners, if any of them message me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @BrianThe, THE Mint, MINT. Just DM me on Twitter. Tell me you heard about me on this show, and I'll send you 10,000 Satoshis, pieces of Bitcoin, which is like, I don't know, it's like a couple bucks. It's only like a couple bucks worth of Bitcoin, but I'll send you your first 10,000 Satoshis because I think it's important just for people to get started in it. And I don't care if I have to give you your first little bits just to keep people started, because I think it matters that much. And actually on today's show, I want to send you, Jesus, I want to send you some Bitcoin over the Lightning Network just to show your audience how fast and how cheap it is too. So whether you want to do it right now or later.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do it right now. Let me just pause it real quick so I can take my, yeah, definitely. So here we go.
Okay. So on the top right there, hit where it says Lightning address, if you wouldn't mind, on the top right there. So it says Lightning, and then on the right side, it says Lightning address.
Okay, right here. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. So then that, go ahead. Did the QR code come up with that?
Yes, a QR code right there. And then it says copy right there.
Perfect. So just go ahead and hold that up to the screen. Let me see if I can scan it. I just got to focus it here. Oh my goodness. Maybe a little bit closer. I've never tried to do this through Zoom before, so I was trying something new. Get it, if you don't mind getting all the way up on the camera. Sorry. Oh man, yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, it came through. It just took a second to scan. Okay, so I'm typing in here. Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna send you 100,000 sats. It's about $20 worth of Bitcoin. It's nothing crazy. So I'm gonna hit send. Let's just see how fast it goes. If you don't mind holding it up to the screen. So people say all the time that Bitcoin is slow and expensive to send, but I'm gonna show your audience here how fast this works. Okay, I just sent it, and let's see. You're across the entire country. So let's see how long this comes through. And go ahead and just hit refresh on that. Go back and see if and refresh it, because it probably is already there.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Does it show 100,000 sats? So boom, you got 100,000 sats in your wallet.
Wow.
We just sent value from you to me across the entire, from different states, you could have been in Europe or whatever. It would have gone just as fast. That transaction is settlement. So if I were to send you a Visa payment right now, it would take 48 hours for it to hit your account, and they would charge 3%. It took 2-3 seconds, and the transaction fee was zero. Sometimes you pay like 1/12 of a penny for certain transactions, but you never pay anything significant in terms of that. So, and there was no intermediary. We just used software where I didn't have to put my information in. I didn't have to put your information in. It was just, I sent value from you to me. And so that's Bitcoin right there. That's what we just did.
Exactly. Oh, that is so awesome. It is awesome. I know for sure some of the members of this audience, they really gonna, it's gonna our light bulb's gonna go up in their head, and they're like, okay, this is cool.
So I sent you enough money. It was my selfish motive. I sent you enough money so you can buy a copy of my book. I just played. You don't have to. I'm just messing with you.
Well, I will anyway. But now when it comes to investment, because obviously, even though Bitcoin is still as a commodity, now, do you believe in investing in multiple? Like, do you only invest in Bitcoin only, or you do have different all those investments?
Yeah, I diversify. I think Bitcoin is a significant portion of my portfolio, and because it's grown so much too. So like I said, it started as a really small percentage of my portfolio, and I started with only 5% of my investments went to Bitcoin, but it's just grown to become like 70% of my portfolio because I'm not selling it. But if I tell people all the time, like, part of investing is investing in things that make money. Companies are a great thing to invest in. The stock market's a great thing to invest in because there's good companies out there that you can invest your capital in, and they're going to return investment to you. So I think investing in the stock market's smart. I have some gold and precious metals and things like that. I invest in businesses myself, so actual businesses that I can operate in. I haven't dabbled a whole lot in real estate. I really want to. I think that's kind of the next chapter of my life, and with my business partners, I want to do some more real estate. I think there's a lot of good ways to protect and preserve your wealth out there. Yeah,
definitely, most definitely. The other thing I have talked to people is that a lot of time I heard people say, if you're going to invest, you might as well invest on stuff that you use.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. Yeah, that's like Warren Buffett, right? He always talks about that. And I think that it's really smart to think like that, because then you understand it, right? And I think that's why, I mean, part of why I like to send people, some Bitcoin is just like, now you can say you've used it. You have, this thing that you own, you've had some experience with it, and you see that it works. And so, yeah, I mean, the companies that I buy into, I think I've bought companies or shares of stock before in companies that I don't use, because I think that the financials make sense. But for the most part, I do invest in things that I use myself.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, are there any apps that people should kind of stay away from because of?
For like scams and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The, Instead of giving a list of the apps that I would stay away from, I would just say that some of the apps that I think that are okay, because you don't need a lot of apps. You could have one
exactly.
app. Yeah, you could have one app and you're good to go. I think Coinbase is a really good way to buy Bitcoin. So it's like the first thing that'll come up in the App Store if you type in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or anything like that. Coinbase
Mhm.
is it's a publicly traded company. They have some insurance and things like that. They store your Bitcoin for you. Now, I say that with like, that's a good introductory thing, because part of Bitcoin is it's called self-sovereign money. You don't have to have a bank anymore. You can, that Bitcoin I just sent you, you're in complete control of it. You store it on your phone. There's some ways you can secure it more than just storing it on your phone. You can make it really secure. But it's kind of like having cash and putting it under your mattress. We don't do that with cash because our house
Exactly.
could catch on fire and then our cash is gone. But with Bitcoin, there's some pretty sophisticated and safe ways we can store it ourselves where we don't need a bank anymore. But that takes a few extra steps and it takes a little bit of homework. So I tell people, if you want to get started in Bitcoin, you don't want to hold it yourself, you don't want to secure it yourself, just buy a little bit through Coinbase and they'll secure it for you. As your Bitcoin grows and it becomes a significant amount of money, then you can decide, okay, in a year or two, I'm going to move it off and I'm going to store it myself and I'm going to go through all the proper checks to make sure that I'm securing it myself. But for now, I think Coinbase is a viable option.
Gotcha.
For using the Lightning Network, that one we just used, Wallet of Satoshi, is a cool wallet. If somebody goes and, like I said, if they download Wallet of Satoshi and then they send me a $10,000 or a $10,000 Satoshi Bitcoin invoice, I'll send them 10,000 sats through Twitter. I do this all the time. I do giveaways on Twitter all the time because it's so easy to give people these micropayments to send just a few dollars of value. I can't do that with Venmo. I can't send 20 cents to somebody on Venmo. It's just that the
Exactly.
app
You're
doesn't
right.
do that, right? But with Bitcoin, we can send any amount at any time. It doesn't matter if the bank's open, if the bank's closed or whatever. Bitcoin works at any time. So Wallet Satoshi is a good one. Blue Wallet's a good one. But if you want to buy Bitcoin, I would either go with Binance US, Coinbase, or Kraken. Those are some of the more reputable
Gotcha.
exchanges. I
Okay.
personally use Coinbase and I think it's fine. It's good.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. And would you say that before anybody starts, they should do their homework and do a little research before they actually, and if they come across a app, they should research the app before they actually.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, most of the scams in crypto are really unsophisticated scams. They're not very brilliant scams. I think it's that they play off of people's uncertainty about cryptocurrency. And so let me give you an example of one of the scams that you'll see like on the internet, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. You'll see people all the time. They'll go in like a famous person's tweet thread. So they'll go in the comments under somebody's tweet, like Elon Musk, say Elon Musk will make a tweet, and then they'll go down in the comments. They'll say, hey, I would like to send somebody 2 Bitcoin, but just send me 1 Bitcoin first, and then I'll send you back 2. Nobody would ever do that with dollars. Like if somebody came up to you on the street and said, hey, I'll give you $200, but you have to give me $100 first. You would never do that. But for
Exactly. You're
some
right.
reason, people think this must be how cryptocurrency works. I give it to somebody and they give it back to me and multiply it. That's how unsophisticated some of these scams are. And I'm telling you, the reason these scams exist and they keep going is because people are doing it for some reason. But just use common sense. If it doesn't make sense in the real world, I wouldn't do it with crypto. There's nothing like crazy different about the way it works in terms of the way you make money in crypto. It's
Mhm.
just think of it as like if you're buying gold or a stock or something like that. You wouldn't send Apple shares to somebody hoping to get more Apple shares back. That doesn't make sense. So just use kind of common sense and things like that, and you'll be okay.
Awesome, great. That is so awesome. So I know I know that this right here has been very helpful. The last thing I want you to do is to mention again the name of your book. And so for people that what's the name of the book, where can they find it, and then how can they contact you?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your platform and your listeners and just the great questions and the discussion we've had. So again, my name is Brian Dement. My book is called Bitcoin Evangelism, and you can get it on Amazon. You can get the paperback, you can get the Kindle version if you like ebooks. It's on Audible. You can listen to it if you want. I even have a Spanish translation that's coming out in 2 weeks. So if you have any Spanish speakers in the audience, we have a Spanish translation, because the cool thing is the biggest Bitcoin adoption that's happening right now is in Latin America and Africa, where people are under these really oppressive regimes, these really oppressive governments, where they're just totally taking advantage of the monetary systems. People are using Bitcoin to like save their lives, to pull their family out of like destitute poverty, because their national currencies are like hyperinflating. Every day they're losing value, but they're able to preserve some of their wealth in these countries by holding Bitcoin. So that's why it was so important for us to get a Spanish translation out, because we want more people in those countries to be able to read this and get it. So yeah, that's all on Amazon. And one of the cool things about my book is you can when you make a Bitcoin wallet, you can secure it with a 12-word passphrase, and it's called the seed phrase. Well, what I did was I made a Bitcoin wallet with about $700 worth of Bitcoin in it, and I hid the 12 words passphrase throughout the book. So if you read the book, there's like an Easter egg inside of the book. If you look closely, you can find those 12 words, and then you can unlock my Bitcoin wallet. Nobody's found it yet. I think people have found like 8 or 9 of the words, but if you find all 12 words, there's a Bitcoin wallet out there. You just type those words into a Bitcoin wallet, and that like $700 worth of Bitcoin will pop up, and it'll be yours. So the first person to find it gets to keep it.
Oh wow, definitely. So I'm gonna check it out. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate this information. I know for sure we're gonna help people out there in the audience that are either scared or don't understand Bitcoin. I really appreciate it. I will put the link that you mentioned earlier in the description below. So if you can mention it one more time.
Yep. So yeah, it's just on Amazon. So if you just type in Bitcoin Evangelism in Amazon, it's going to pop right up. And it's on sale right now. It's like, I don't know, 15 or 20% off or something like that. So anybody that buys it in the next couple of weeks, they're going to get it on sale. And if you want to, like I said, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I do Bitcoin giveaways all the time on Twitter. My handle is at Brian, BRIAN, THE, Mint, MINT. If you send me a Lightning invoice, a Bitcoin Lightning invoice, I'll send you 10,000 sats just because you tuned into this show. I like people to get started. I feel honored when I get to send people their first Bitcoin. When people say, "Oh, I haven't even bought Bitcoin yet," I'm like, "Let me send you your first little bits of Bitcoin," so that I can always say that I was your first person to do that.
All right. Well, thank you again. So Brian and I, we hope that this episode has been very informative. We hope that you learned a lot from this. And until we hear from you next time, continue to be blessed.